Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Something just came to my head, and I got to ask you before I forget. Tell me about the overall trends in the industry.
The trends in the overall industry. Really, it's exploding. I mean, it's really smart money moves. Okay, here's an example. When the .com bomb happened years ago, back in the 90s, everybody ran from the stock market and investing in goofy, companies and whatnot into the housing sector. And we know what just happened there. The housing bubble starting to pop, is popping, and that money's running elsewhere. I remember about 2 months ago, it was kind of interesting. I like looking at news online and Yahoo News and whatever. And within like a 24, 48 period of time, I saw one article saying, hey, the housing market is going to hell. Excuse me for going there. But the other one was saying the .com or the domain business is exploding. And it's true. It's just, I think people are really getting that this really is real estate, and these are like, I look at small websites much like that are producing income. Imagine being able to going back to the 1920s or 30s and being able to buy little houses that you can rent out for and turn a profit of like, $200-300 a month. It's like, could you do that for $1,000 today? Well, way back when, you could probably buy a house for a couple grand and turn monthly profits. The same thing with domains today, and I think people are getting that. You can micro-invest with smaller chunks, or if you have a budget, obviously you can buy something just turning, a ton of profit, or you can buy a good name and start developing on it. And, it's I think everybody that's in doing business online knows you need to start generating some money and traffic to your website. That's kind of a given. But once you have that skill, it's basically like I guess it's kind of like buying a fixer-upper and changing, getting the curb appeal up on the site and moving it forward. So I think a lot of people are going there. The trend is growing. You can see domain auctions at Moniker. I think they're doing 2 or 3 of those a year now. And they're moving domains oftentimes in and of themselves without much development. We're talking 6-7 figures on a regular basis. And it's no joke. I mean, they're coming with financing and banks that'll finance your domain purchases. Much like
well, Sean, let me say something real quick. Isn't this stuff exciting, guys? I tell you what. I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're going to make some serious cash with these ideas. And I tell you what, I am so stoked on everything he's saying, and I'll give it back to him. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry. I had to say something.
Yeah, it's okay. It is exciting because it's like watching something. It's like watching history happen. Some of the granddaddies of the domain business, one of them being a guy named Rick Schwartz. He was buying domains back in the late 90s or mid-late 90s, and he's just got a crazy amount of awesome domains. Here's what I'd have to look up the stats on it, but an actual typo of the word mortgage is like, I forget what the typo was. I believe it sold. God, I'd have to look that up. I know it was at least 6 figures that thing sold for, and it's really with these typos. And I guess that's something we should talk about. And I'm sorry if I'm bouncing around a little bit. With typo, what I mean by typo traffic or type in traffic is traffic that just naturally exists on a domain, meaning if you were lucky enough to pick up a one-word domain that a lot of people type in, or even a 2-word for a natural industry, where there's just, you've probably done it before. If you want to look for movie tickets, someone will get curious and just type in movietickets.com just to see what's there. And depending on the industry, sometimes there's more the keyword phrase. Sometimes there's more traffic than others, and that stuff is really golden. And they refer to it as direct navigation. That stuff right there, if you have a domain doing significant traffic just from typing, you can sell those things for up to, highest I've heard is probably right around 8 to 10 years worth of income. And that's pretty amazing. It's like getting around search engine traffic. There's people with thousands and thousands of these things, and they just control a ton of traffic. It's not often talked about in general, but there are some people that are just sitting on mountains of traffic that they don't do anything for, based on this concept. For me, that's kind of interesting, but not as interesting as development. For me, I look at domains as more of a, I don't know, I look at it as something that I prefer the development model, to where you establish something great on a name. And obviously, if you have a great name, it's easier to establish things from, keep it memorable. But back to buyers. Buyers, you can create your market, but really, I think I covered is when, you put yourself in front of people, make contacts and relationships. There's a bunch of places online that you can list your stuff, and I actually have a rather extensive list, forums and marketplaces like SitePoint, DigitalPoint, DN Forum, NamePros, Webmaster Talk, for that matter, even, sites like Warrior Forum. I'm sure you can list, stuff for sale, or maybe put a WSO up, I guess, on a package of domains that you're just offering at a discount price. And if people are interested in that industry, you can go for it. I know some people have luck selling in, say, maybe like the eBay space. I've tried that, and I just didn't have luck. I don't know. There might be some magic there that I'm unaware of, but I've not had luck. The best places I've found buyers are the ones that find me. The one for $22,000 that I brokered for a buddy of mine. I don't know if we've talked about that yet. There was a domain.
No, we haven't.
Okay, there was a domain I brokered for a buddy of mine. I want to say about about maybe 2 years ago. I think it was maybe a year ago. I forget the exact date. But I got a sale for $22,000 for him, and I actually think it was a little low. I think if he had more time, I could have gone a little bit higher. What I did is I knew the industry that domain matched with, so I went and I found the forum where those people hung out, and I just made a good offer. I talked about some of the value points. It had established traffic, nothing significant. This domain, I think, had under 200 hits a day going to it, unique hits. So it wasn't like a high traffic site, but because of the nature of the domain, it was a very, very common use two-word phrase for a very particular market, and that traffic is just worth a lot of money in generating leads or sales or whatnot. And because it's like hands-off traffic, there was no development. There wasn't even a design on this domain. It was a blank white page. And we had some stats showing, like I said, it was sub 200 uniques a day. But when I put it in front of the right crowd, all of a sudden, I think we started opening it up at, God, I want to say it was maybe 13,000. We said, hey, look, we're interested in entertaining offers around the 13,000 to 17,000 price range. And all of a sudden, some big hitters started coming in and said, oh, we'll take it. And, I had to have a few phone conversations with people, and we, had to go back and forth with some stats. And once they were comfortable, it took start to finish. I think that transaction took about maybe a week and a half, about a week and a half, of talking to about a dozen interesting people about who wanted that. And another exciting part of, doing domain transactions and domain flipping or selling and whatnot is, even though I got a nice little cut of that transaction for being its broker, even more importantly is I got a few dozen contacts with some significant players in the domain industry. So there's a lot more than just the value in flipping domains. It's also, doing this is almost like building a very interesting buyer list, or in the internet marketing world, IM space, you refer to it as list building or whatnot. So you also have that inherent value in domain flipping itself. You can build a nice, you build your own marketplace, really, is what you're doing. You can build a list of buyers and sellers